I want to welcome everybody on this kind of a crisp October evening. Um, it's going to be an interesting talk tonight. Vladimir has the challenge of condensing 185 years of photo history into 45 minutes. So that's going to be interesting. I'm sure he'll pull it off fine, though. Um, this is going to be an interesting week. The Nobel Prizes are going to start being announced tomorrow, and that will go through the week. And um, one thing that, I was thinking about, these people are being recognized for the advancements that they contribute to various fields, physics, chemistry, medicine, literature, economics, and so on. But in some respect, they're all historians. If you look at the papers that they wrote to make their contribution, they always have references in the back of past papers that they have read and studied to make their advancement. Fortunately, in all these fields, with the possible exception of literature, there's journals. There's that source of information that they can tap into to take it to the next step. Even with literature, though, almost all those people who have won it in the past, I'm sure, have been influenced by materials that they have read. In photography, though, this is why I think PHSNE is so important. We don't have journals, except for maybe the PHSNE journal, but we don't have a regular source of information that people build on. And this is why I think regional societies like ours, and especially PHSNE, is just so important, because we are making a record of contributions that people have made, and cameras have come out and everything. And that's why it's so important that we remain viable. And so I just want to take this opportunity to thank you all for becoming members of PHSNE and helping us keep this source of information that other people will no doubt build on to make further advances in photo and in photo history, to increase our understanding of all that. So with that, I'm going to hand it back to oh, well, one more thing. I do want to apologize. There were a couple of errors in the paper copies of the snapshots that went out. We do have a couple of proofreaders, but this is the first time that I can remember that we let a few things slip through. It was a miscommunication problem, but I think we resolved that. The issue that is online is accurate, so we do have that record. But I do want to let you know that I apologize for those errors that were in the paper copy that went out to you folks. So with that, I'm going to hand it back to Dana. And Dana, take it over.
Thanks, John. That was a great introduction. And welcome everyone to our October meeting. Before I introduce tonight's speaker, Vladimir Khazan, just a few housekeeping notes. Please stay on mute until the presentation is finished, at which point we'll do questions. You can type your questions into the chat as the meeting is going on. The chat is at the bottom of your screen. And we'll get to those at the end, but we'll do that. You're welcome to type questions in as we're going along. And your screen speaker view is best. If you're in gallery, you'll just see a very tiny picture. So speaker view, I would recommend. And now I would like to introduce PHSNE member Vladimir Khazan, who will be presenting tonight on major developments, no pun intended, of photography over the years. Vlad has been presenting for us every October for the last few years, and he's done a lot of hard work on this. So I want to welcome him, and Vlad, it's all yours.
Thank you, Dana. And hello, everybody. It will be my pleasure to talk to the entire PHSNE community. And this presentation actually, yes, it has to cover at least 185 years of photography, but I'm going to start a little earlier because the first mention was, is actually noticed from times before Christ. So it will be a little over 185 years of photography. All right. So let us begin. Um, as we know, everything is not done by itself. People do great things to make the progress. And photography is about the same way as everything else. So please take a look what happened. And we used to celebrate Monsieur Daguerre when we talk about photography, but there was a lot of people before Daguerre, and there was and there will be a lot of people after Daguerre. So let's take a look at some persons that I chose for today's or tonight's presentation to talk about, right? So, um, all right. So you can see some of the very famous faces here, and as you can see, these people are from different times, and at different time, the same process was named differently. And what kind of names we are talking about is this: sun pictures or heliography. Basically, these two terms are the same because we are talking about the sunlight and something to do with pictures. Helios is a sun in Greek, so sun pictures the same. Negative positive process, we still have it. We still use these terms. We do not use the term daguerreotypomania anymore. Teletyping still famous because it's paper process. So out of all these names, the winner was the name photography. And this is where we will start, right? So first we define what photography is, and this is the uh, drawing or writing with light. Please notice that photograph is a picture, right? And photographs are usually obtained by photography, not by copy machine. Sometimes we say photocopies, talking about copy machines. That is not actual photography. That is just copying, right? So keep in mind that. And the main instrument for photography was camera obscura. We started everything with camera obscura, and the first mention of it was um, is known from China from years before Christ. And after this philosopher Mozi or Mozai or Mo Tai, his name is pronounced in different ways. Euclid was the next one who actually used the camera obscura again for his own purposes. And finally, this very famous person, Al Khazan. Please notice his last name is very close to mine. So all Khazans or Khazans are in photography or in optics. This person is in optics, and he was very famous for his times. He wrote two books on photography, and he was the one who actually successfully proved that one little hole can produce an image. And you can see that on the screen. And he noticed that the image will be upside down and flip left to right. Since then, camera obscura was redesigned many times, and mostly it was used as an aid for for painting. Lots of painters used it as an aid, but Leonardo da Vinci did not use it for painting. He used it for studying structure of the human eye, because he said human eye is a natural camera obscura. If you think about it, it's exactly right. And all the other scientists who were experimenting with photography or heliography, um, they used camera obscura. Let us take a look what happened 185 years ago. 185 years ago, in August 1839, there was an announcement in French Academy of Sciences that Monsieur Daguerre described the process of photography. And Secretary of French Academy of Sciences, Francois Arago, um, announced it free to the world, right? So, but again, as I said before, there were people before Daguerre, and there will be people after Daguerre, and there are people after Daguerre. So let us start with the very bottom person from this row of photographs, Johann Heinrich Schulze. He was actually about 100 years ahead of time, and he proved that um, silver nitrate darkens because because of the light, not heat, as people thought. And that's what he did. He took a jar with silver nitrate, and he stuck a stencil on one side on the jar. Then he lighted the stencil up, and see what he noticed. He noticed that that image created inside the jar. Then he turned the light off and removed the stencil, but the image was still inside the jar. And only when he shook the jar, the image disappeared. So that's how he decided that it's the light that makes silver nitrate darken, not the heat. Actual father or pioneer of photography is considered Thomas Wedgwood. Thomas Wedgwood. Why he is considered so, the reason why, is that he was the first person who joined camera obscura and chemicals. He thought chemicals would make the process faster and will help to fix the image. But when it made no difference whether the image was taken with the camera or without the camera, when he brought images to the ambient light, this is what happened to the images. They darkened, kept darkening, and finally they disappeared. He published his result, and a few years later, he made friends with Humphrey Davy, Sir Humphrey Davy. He was only 24 those days, but he was very influential, very talented scientist. By the way, Thomas Wedgwood attended uh, institute or college, university actually, for 2 years, and he also was educated at home, and his interest was education, children education. That's why he was interested in getting images. So They repeated, Wedgwood and Humphrey Davy repeated Wedgwood's experiments, but none of them knew how to fix the image. The article was published in the Royal Institution magazine of London, and they, unfortunately, they did not know, but their interest was mostly in copying paintings on glass to make sun pictures. They called them sun pictures. And they published that, and that magazine was available only to subscribers or enthusiasts, and that's why not a lot of people noticed that huge step towards photography invention. The person who actually created the fixer, discovered the fixer, was Sir John Herschel. Um, he was the son of a very famous composer and astronomer, Sir William Herschel. Sir William Herschel was building telescopes. His biggest 40-foot telescope helped him to discover Uranus, the planet of Uranus. And he built that telescope, and his son, Sir John Herschel, photographed that telescope. And that was done in 1839. See, we are coming closer and closer. And so it was the first photograph on glass plate, right? So John Herschel is famous for finding uh, the fixer. Fixer is hypo-thiosulfate, sodium thiosulfate, and he decided to let Monsieur Daguerre and William Henry Fox Talbot about his discovery. Sir John Herschel was a very talented scientist. Uh, Chemistry was one of his top interests, and he had a lot of records. To make copies of all of those records, he created special way to do that. So for that, he invented cyanotyping. Cyanotyping. This is not photography. You do not need necessarily um, a camera for that. You can use it from the camera with the camera as well, but you don't necessarily need that. And he had a very famous, um, actually, he had a student who became very famous. It was a lady, her name was Anna Atkins, and she created this, see, phototypes, colorized images. So they used vegetable juices to get photographs, the entire photograph colored. Unfortunately, the samples of that are not available for now. So what I did, I just chose one of my photographs and I colorized them, right? So these pictures, I find this photo very funny. Um, and these pictures are colorized, the result as it would be phototypes, right? But what Anna Atkins is famous for is that this is her and her father, is cyanotypes. This is cyanotypes. This is her black and white photo, and this is cyanotype copy of that. So she created a book, a handwritten book of algae, and it was done with the cyanotype photograms. she dedicated that entire book to her father, John George Children. John George Children had friends, and those friends were Sir John Herschel, William Henry Fox Talbot, and Humphrey Davy. And these are the people who actually taught Anna Atkins. They were the people who she learned from. And on this slide, you can see some pictures from her book. This book is considered the first book in the world with imaging, or with images, not painted, not drawn, but uh, images that were gotten somewhere else, somehow else. The next person, we go back in time again. It's 1826 now, and 1826 is the year when Nicephor Niepce, or Joseph Nicephor Niepce, made his first photograph. And that photograph is considered the first photograph ever taken in the entire world. Right? He was a son of deposit collector who worked for King Louis XVI. Uh, the time was not the best, and unfortunately, French Revolution was coming, and that French Revolution turned everything upside down. And Nicephor Niepce went to the army, and he served in the Revolutionary Army for 2 years. Then he left and was administrator of Nice. Then he stopped doing that, and he got married, and he got his son. Everything was the same year, 1795. And very soon after that year, 6 years later, the family moved back to the family estate, Le Gras, very, very close to Paris. Actually, it's southwest to Paris, from Paris. There, him and his brother Claude started started working on different inventions. Their first invention was internal combustion engine. They tested it on the boat, and that boat went against the current for until the gasoline or whatever it ran on um, was was gone. His next very interesting invention was this draisine. This draisine is very widely used nowadays. And take a look who is the main user. Of course, the little kids, right? So this is what Nicephor Niepce did with photography, because he was um, involved with photography a lot, and he thought about it a lot, and he was educated on chemistry and physics mostly, and that's what he did. Please notice the process that is described here on this slide. So again, photocopy on glass plate. So what's the difference? The difference is the medium, because he figured out that pictures based on silver continued darkening outside the camera, so he used a different substance, Syrian asphalt or Judea bitumen, you name it, whatever you want. It's the same substance, and that substance hardens when the light, the daylight, when it sees the daylight. And his first thing to test the method was the copying a picture. This is a 17th century engraving, and he took a picture of that using his method. And this is actually a print from his photograph, right? Here it looks just like regular printed engraving, but the original was not engraved. It was received by Niepce's method, right? This is how his first photograph looked like originally. It was a pewter plate and or tin plate. I think this is the tin plate. Um, so they enhanced it and they received this. They figured out that everything is messed up because nobody could see what's going on here because all the shadows are messed up because the exposure time was 8 hours. And during those 8 hours, the sun made its course across the sky, and all the shadows moved and were recorded on that photograph. Um, this photograph was made out of the window at Legra, out of the window at Niepce's family estate. This is how it looks in color. The same photograph, just um, fixed with a computer. Uh, this is his uh, family estate, Legra, and this is how it looks now. So you can, if you will ever travel to France, you can visit this place and go in, and you will see the lab where Nicéphore Niepce worked, and that famous window right here. If you will open that window, you will be able to take the same photograph as Nicéphore Niepce took so many years ago. All right. And he still was focused on copying uh, classic paintings. Um, he was working on improvement of his process, and uh, he added lavender oil. And unfortunately, 1833, Joseph Nicéphore Niepce passed away. But his method is still used nowadays. Surprisingly, people would may be surprised, but this is, if you will compare the two methods, photolithography, this is the method to create computer microchips, computer micro processors, right? And Nicéphore Niepce's method, you will see definite similarity, right? The bitumen of Judea is replaced with the photoresist, and but mask could be different. Mask could be a picture, could be a pattern for uh, printed circuit board. All right. So next person is Monsieur Daguerre, and Monsieur Daguerre, I like this. I like this picture, and I took it from this book. This is one of my sources. Um, this book is about Monsieur Daguerre. And he was born um, to the family of the first crier at the court, Cornell Court, and basically he did not have formal education. He went only through elementary school, and then his parents noticed that he shows uh, talent towards painting. They did they apprenticed him at the local architects, and he found it boring, and he went to Paris. He went to Paris and he joined the Bohemian life, and he was friendly with a lot of painters. He worked for different people. He was, as a result, he was um, apprenticed at Pierre Privot. Pierre Privot was the very famous panorama painter. And Pierre Privot had another talented student. His name was Charles Marie Bouton, and Louis Daguerre and Charles Marie Bouton ran business together, business of diorama. They created diorama together in Paris, and it existed until 1839. In 1829, Charles Chevalier, who was an optician in Paris, joined them together, Niepce and Louis Daguerre. He joined these two together because Louis Daguerre was looking for a way to create paintings without painting. He wanted to photograph paintings, photograph views, and make um, big paintings out of them. So he thought Nicéphore Niepce can help him with that, and Nicéphore Niepce agreed to start the partnership. But those days, unfortunately, people didn't have internet, and to work together, they had to actually get together physically. And yes, for the first time, Louis Daguerre visited uh, Nicéphore Niepce's place for signing the contract. And the other three times that he visited the place was they both people worked on Niepce's process. After Niepce's death, Louis Daguerre secretly from Niepce's son, who was officially the owner of the business, according to the treaty, um, secretly from him, he continued working on the process. He did not spend a lot of time on it, so the process was about the same as Nicéphore Niepce created it, but Monsieur Daguerre changed the name, and the goal for that was to make himself the inventor, right? And with that new name of the business, he came to Academy of Fine Art, and he spoke with Louis Francois Arago, um, and on August 19th, his quote unquote, was announced as uh, the daguerreotyping product. The name daguerreotyping came from Daguerre himself. So he was in the entire history of photography. he was the only person who named the process after himself. Nobody else did it. So since that day, it was officially said, officially done, and it is considered the so-called birthday of photography. But this is the process of daguerreotyping, and you can see the times, right? The timing. Uh, right after that announcement, it was a big boom in France and Paris, and everybody started making portraits of themselves. And the daguerreotypomania spread to Europe and USA. You can see President Lincoln with no beard. This is pretty unusual photograph. Um, and that daguerreotypomania um, did not specify that to take the portrait, people had to be supported just about like you can see on this screen. Okay, the first one of the first applications for daguerreotypes was used in police, and this person, Alphonse Berthelon, created mugshots, and this is the camera from the prison Alcatraz. Well, of course, it's a later camera because you can see the shutter and the lens already. It's about Zeiss second time, so it's much later camera, and this is what they did: mugshots. Al Capone, right? So, what happened with Nicépher name? It was forgotten, and it became unknown to the wide public. His son, his son Isidore Niepce, published a booklet, and he started the process of reinstating Niepce's name. And nowadays, a lot of people already know that the real father of photography was Nicépher Niepce. In United States, daguerreotyping was used by Alexander Walcott. But again, he improved that method by using concave mirror. Concave mirror, this camera did not have a lens at all. Uh, Concave mirror focused the light on a very small plate, just about this size, and it needed much less time for making photograph. This camera I found, the replica of it, I found in a museum in Saco in Maine. And when I visited that museum, Ms. Carolyn Parsons Roy, who is a collections and archives manager at the museum, allowed me to take photographs of this camera. As you can see, I am next to it, but I'm not touching it. So it was a very, very good experience, and I hope uh, Carolyn is among us today. And well, I invited her. I'm not sure if she is around. If yes, I would like her to say something. The next person is William Henry Fox Talbot. He's responsible for paper process. He created the paper process as it was um, available until digital photography process, right? So he made the image invisible, then he created the chemical reaction to make it visible. That speeded up the process of photographing, and he created the process named collotype. This is a camera that he created for that. He took some photographs with his camera, and this is the first uh, human being photographed on paper, at least by William Henry Talbot, right? And he showed that transparent negative is very good for copying, for making many prints. You can see himself, many William Henry Fox Talbots on one picture, right? He created uh, a book illustrated with photographs. I have a reprint of this book, and this is the book, and it has a lot of photographs there, and I will show you just a couple, right? So you can pay attention to the resolution on these pictures, on these photographs. China, text, and this wonderful photograph. Take a look at the resolution. Pay attention to the resolution. His process was improved by Frederick Scott Archer, and he actually added collodion, cellulose nitrate, and soluble iodide. The result was a more sensitive and finely detailed negative process, and because of that, better prints. So, but wet collodion process required wet plate all the time. For to make the photograph, the plate supposed to be wet, and it was very difficult for people to go out with this mobile chemical lab. So when someone wanted to take a picture outdoors, they had to carry this tent with them. And while he or she was walking around, it looks like this. To me, it looks similar like Louis Armstrong on the moon. It's very close, I think. Looks very similar. Then there were some people who decided that it is it would be very nice to replace that wet process with the dry process. And among those people was George Eastman, right? He created his own plates, his recipe for his own plates. Besides that, he patented this machine for making plates. And these boxes of plates, now this situation here looks like this. We do not need the tent anymore. Instead of the tent, we can use a box of dry plates and preload cassettes and camera, and the process would be much easier and faster. These are cameras from our Photographica society for photographic show, you can see how many and how different plate cameras were made, and different companies who made those cameras. George Eastman's goal was to make photography available for everybody, and he did a lot to popularize uh, the photography. He created um, roll film, and he patented the camera, and he registered the company Kodak. Company Kodak. All those cameras are roll film cameras, and this is the very first roll film camera. Costed a lot of money, $25 those days. Um, Parallel to this, a little later, was created the first folding camera, and roll film is, as we know it now, 120 film survived out of those types, and this is how we control that there's a window under red glass in the back of the roll film cameras, so we can control how much more we have to transport the film. Um, box cameras, all all roll film cameras, and surprisingly, they were famous up to 1960s, right? After that, after box cameras, George Eastman came up with the cartridge Kodak. Cartridge Kodak allowed daylight loading process. This is how that they looked, the different sizes, and this is how they were advertised. That you don't need a horse, you don't need a tent, you just can go bicycling somewhere, and your camera will be with you. Roll film cameras were made by different companies, as you can see here: Kodak, Zeiss, Agfa, IHG, and so on. Right, different photo cameras. Then Thomas Edison created 35 millimeter film, and that film was created for motion pictures, photographing and viewing motion pictures. Photography enthusiasts, um, always wanted to adopt the film to the photo cameras, to still cameras. And the first cameras practically made, there were many, as you can see here. In 1908, there was a patent in England, but not all the cameras were made. Some of them were just projected. So in United States, these two cameras were built. So this is the tourist camera, and this is the simplex. All of them, both of them, are 35 millimeter film cameras, as you can see on this slide. Okay. A real revolution happened when in Germany, Oscar Barnack at company Lights created his Leica. His Leica was really revolutionary camera, and everybody said that this is the smallest company. This is miniature camera. I'm sorry, I said company. Um, Miniature camera, and That's how it looks. Full frame, full frame. So people considered 24 by 36 millimeters as a full frame. And everything that is smaller is a sub miniature, except for 1824. 1824 is not sub miniature, it's just half frame because it uses the same film, 35 millimeter film. This is how we we have different uh, formats. We have all these formats, and they are considered these three sub miniature formats. The next step in photography was creating SLR cameras. As you can see, every improvement in technology moved camera design further ahead. And the first SLR, 35 millimeter SLR cameras were created in Soviet Union, um, but unfortunately, because of the Second World War, um, the production was seized and was not renewed when the war was over. But the camera still exists. I have a sample of it. I think I had my previous presentation last October was about this camera. So SLR cameras were not only 35 millimeter, but roll film cameras had SLR cameras as well. You can see here exacta the same camera as I just showed you for 35 millimeter SLR, and all the others, they are roll film SLR cameras. The next step, as we all know, after SLR cameras is a digital era of photography. Comparing to a negative positive process, it's much easier and shorter and faster. And since several years ago, has a better resolution. Um, as you can see here, we have a telephone, we have point and shoot camera, and we still have DSLR camera. So SLR, just digital. D stands for digital. Here you can see the sensor and the image of this wonderful 185th anniversary cake is being, the image of it is taken on the digital camera. Originally, the digital photography began with Eugene Lally of NASA. He tried to make it easier for astronauts to record light signals, and he tried to digitize them. And instead of capturing images, he used photosensors. That's how everything started. And then at Kodak, Steven Sasson in 1975 um, created his first design of a digital camera. It was pretty big. It weighed 8 pounds, and to take one photograph took 23 seconds, but that's mostly because of the recording mechanism, because it was the tape recorder, cassette player was used for that. So Kodak did not do anything towards that, and unfortunately, patent expired in 1997. So nowadays we have a lot of digital cameras, and if you will ask someone, "Do you have a camera?" everybody says, will tell you yes, and they will show you their telephone. So when I was working as a professor at the college, and sometimes I brought um, cameras just to show my students for their curiosity. I showed when I showed the box camera, everybody asked me, "What is it?" I said, "It's a camera." No, they said, it cannot be a camera. It's just a box with a hole. And I said, no, it's a camera. And I showed them why it is a camera. This is how I opened up the box camera and showed them what's going on. All right. So now in Washington, D.C., we have this wonderful monument. Wonderful monument. The first time this monument was erected was 1890, and it was dedicated to 50th anniversary of photography. It does show Daguerre's name on it, but with the time being, it required restoration, and it was restored. And by 1989, it was relocated and rededicated to 150. So, 100 years after the 50th anniversary, it was reopened again. And this is how it looks now. You can see it, how it looks now. So that's about it. This is my sources, and I'm ready for your questions. Did I make it in 45 minutes?
Thank you, Vlad. That was a lot for a lot of history. If you would like to unmute and give Vlad a round of applause.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bravo. Bravo, Vladimir.
Excellent.
I thought you were only going to do a little portion of it. Now we've got the whole 185 years.
Yeah.
That's a little more because I started with Mosey, who lived before Christ.
Fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. I can actually
there are-
show you some books that I used for my sources, but that will be after I will answer your questions. Go ahead.
Let's see. There were a few mentions. Let's see. Jessica mentioned, no, Gary mentioned, excuse me, that the lavender oil was the solvent to dissolve the areas of the asphalt of the bitumen that got less exposure, and it was a very aromatic process.
Yeah, that was used by Nicefron Niepce, and this is what he did. He actually experimented with a lot of substances, and he just found that lavender oil. That's it. That's how he did it.
And Jessica mentioned that wet plate collodion required glass other than paper, so it was truly a laborious process
Very.
and sharper negatives than paper.
Yeah. Even if it did not require glass, it required cellulose, which was very difficult to remove from the paper backing. For that reason, actually, the first films that were taken by the first Kodak camera, uh, George Eastman wanted everybody to send the camera when the film is over. He wanted everybody to send the camera to the factory. At the factory, they opened the camera, they developed the film and printed the pictures, and loaded the camera with another film and returned it to the customer. That's why his slogan, "You push the button, we do the rest."
Yes, I love that slogan.
Yep.
Let's see. A lot of people thanking you, Vlad, for
Yeah, I would greatly appreciate those things. It
yes,
was a lot of work on this presentation.
yes, a lot of, and um, I I was thinking about Talbot, who also had his name attached to his process.
Right.
Um,
Yeah,
and
Talbot type, but it wasn't
Talbot,
done. It wasn't done by himself. It's other people called it Talbot type. That happened after the Daguerreotype. He- Talbot did not do it himself. Daguerre did. He wanted to make his name known forever,
yeah, Daguerre
and
was.
he actually succeeded. Yeah.
Uh, Let me see if there are any other questions. I don't see any other questions. Does anybody have any questions they want to ask on camera?
Vladimir, here's a question. In the introduction for this event, you had mentioned that the Chinese had created the camera obscura, uh, you know, several millennia ago, kind of thing.
Right.
And I do wonder why the mechanical and chemical parts of our contemporary photography were not also created independently of what we think of in the Western world, over in Asia, because the kinds of undertakings that Asia and the Chinese and everywhere else in Asia were often many very in parallel, but without any response or interest, frankly, in Western stuff. Have you ever looked into that kind of parallel experimentation with chemistry? Because it's a big world, and it was a long time ago.
Okay. So first of all, I did not say the Mozi or Mozai or Mozai. I don't know how to pronounce his name correctly because everybody does it differently. He only mentioned camera obscura. So I said that camera obscura was the first time when it was mentioned in history. And um, it tells me that camera obscura already existed before Morsi. So exactly when it was invented, um, I don't think anybody knows now. And talking about chemistry, uh, they did not try to save or get those images separately from camera. They liked it to be seen in the camera, but the only way to fix them was a painting, and
Okay.
uh, painters, lots of painters, used the camera obscura um, as a painting aid. So would that answer your question?
A little bit. I always thought one of the things that in this business of the camera obscura, I couldn't help myself going back and looking at A. Morel, the current uh, photographer, who makes uh, camera obscura photographs by inside of hotel rooms and then takes a picture of the wall that's upside down and that sort of,
Right.
and is, you know, he's famous for this kind of work. So I could, that's part of what I was, you know, imagining, that there's everything old is new again.
Yes, yes, including camera obscura and including the pinhole cameras. You know, nowadays a lot of people are in using pinhole cameras, right? They remove everything. They remove the lens. They cover the intake. If this is the camera, right? I happen to have this exact here, and so what they do is they remove the lens, they cover intake light, intake hole, and make a pinhole in this cover, right? So this is a camera obscura definitely because it's very dark inside there. I've never been there, but I know it's dark in there, um, and that's how they use it. But back in 1558, the person whose yes, that's it, the person whose name was Giovanni Battista della Porta. He was the first one who added a lens to the camera obscura, and he was really surprised of the effect of that action because he wrote that you can see people outside. He was using it from his window. You can see people outside as if you are right next to them. You can see, he said, the close details. You can see the eye color. You can see everything. So that with a lens, but before real camera obscura had no lens, and people say in China those days before Christ's days, they did not have glass, so they could not make a lens.
We have another question from Becky.
Yes, your conversation right then follows along with what I was asking. I've noticed amongst I shoot digitally, but I noticed amongst many of my friends that it's almost like the film processing and even wet plate is becoming more and more popular. So I'm interested to know your perspective from a historical standpoint as to whether or not those two, the digital and the film approach and processes, will always be side by side. It seems like digital is not taking over.
Well, you know, I have to quote one of my friends who used to say, "Nothing is forever." Right? So um, I can say that nothing is forever for this situation as well. And there are some people who prefer to shoot film. For that reason, several companies nowadays create new film cameras, as you know, and a lot of companies create digital cameras, and they keep improving all the cameras, both film and digital. And it's a matter of choice, I believe. Right.
Ken just had a comment that there's not a month that he does not get a call to find a Deerdorf camera to make wet collodion. Um, so still going strong.
Okay.
Um,
What was that? What was that again? Dana?
Ken, do you want to mention? I don't know if Ken is still on. He said that there's not a month that goes by that he doesn't get a call to find a Deerdorf camera to make wet collodion.
Yeah, it's pretty wild that people want to shoot wet collodion and some of them have minivans and they set up a little dark room in the back and coat it.
Yeah, as long as they
sanitize it
don't,
look,
as long as they don't need to carry it on their backs, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, there are many photographers like Sally Mann who are still creating that kind of work. And
Yeah. Remember last month, presenter, he had his lab in the truck.
yes,
So, and he was making tintypes. Yep.
let me see if there are any more questions. Someone asked, John, someone asked if we have the dates for Photographica in April 2025 yet.
It is tentatively the 26th of April,
Okay, thanks, Paul.
but we're still waiting for the official contract. But it will be at the Newton North High School on Saturday, April 26th.
Great.
Just,
Well, thank
just anecdotally, there's a guy who went around all of England photographing lighthouse and light rescuers from all the way around the British Isles. And he had to build his own cameras and his wet plates because he said, "Oh, I don't want to do film. I want to do glass plates. For my sins, I sent him money in order to be able to get it done, the project done." It was quite something. It's really quite something. He's been doing it now for 3 years.
What's his name, Mike?
I'm sorry, I don't have it at my fingertips, but I will send it off and we can put it into something in one of our.
I don't believe you stayed awake through that whole thing.
I like
Good.
Yep.
Folks, we are at time, I believe, and I don't see any more questions, but
15.
Vlad, if you would like to drop your email into the chat briefly. If anyone has any questions, they can reach out to you. So just keep an eye.
Sure. Before I will do that, I want to show you this. This is a cyanotype that I received from one of my friends for New Year. You can see dear Vlad, right? So that's addressed to me, and one of my friends sent it last year for this past New Year. So people do make cyanotypes. So people do go back, as we said.
Yes, we had Edie Bressler, a presenter,
Yes, of course.
talking about her
No,
work.
this is not from her. This is from another person.
Okay. Ben says it's beautiful. Everyone's giving you more thanks. You can say or type in your email, Vlad. And,
Yeah, that's what I'm doing now.
great. And next month, November 3rd, Jessica Ferguson, who was with us tonight, I don't know if she's still on, will be our presenter. Jessica, are you still there?
Yes, I am. And I've been happy to be here, talk about anthotypes, which Vlad referred to as phytotypes, which is just another variation on the theme. So plenty of people doing 19th century processes today. So it's a good fit. Thank you.
Great, we're looking forward to it.
Me too. Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
So about phytotypes, if can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Mhm.
Yeah. So about phytotypes, Sir John Herschel said it's a very slow and unpractical process, and he said we will not go for that. But the examples, the samples that were made those days were saved and seen up to 170 or so years after.
Right, with red stock, I believe the Harry Ransom Center down in Austin, Texas.
Possibly, yes.
Yeah. Yes, where the Nicephore Niepce original photograph is.
Yep.
Yeah. No, it's very exciting.
Okay, if anyone wants to ask Vlad some questions, he has kindly dropped his email. Khazan.vladimir@gmail.com, KHAZAN.VLADIMIR@gmail.com. And again, thank you, Vlad. It was really wonderful to have you.
It was my pleasure, as usual. Thank you.
All right, everyone. Looking forward to seeing you next month in November with Jessica. Thank you for coming, and we will see you soon.
All right. Bye.
Bye, guys
Everyone.
and ladies.
Bye.